Admiral James Foggo, thank you very much for joining TvAbraham. I'm so pleased to talk with you again. You're on the board of advisors of the magazine
Indeed.
that I edit,
Yeah.
Jerusalem Strategic Tribune. But I want to go back to your career in the U.S. Navy, including your time as Admiral of the Sixth Fleet and Supreme Naval Commander for NATO and for the EUCOM Theater. And let's start with Europe.
Sure.
And look at Ukraine. And here we are shortly into the early months of the Trump second administration. Let's just ask the big question. How do you see Ukraine? How does this end, do you think?
Right. Well, Bob, first of all, what a pleasure to be here. And thanks to you for your work in the Jerusalem Strategic Tribune, which has fast become one of the go-to publications, not just in this town, but around the world, especially with everything going on in the Middle East right now. Thanks to Ahmed Shirai for founding both the Tribune and also TvAbraham. It's just a pleasure to be here. And you know, one correction, I have to do this for my friend Jim Stavridis. So Jim was the Supreme Allied Commander.
Oh, okay.
My job was as the component commander for the Supreme Allied Commander. So I had the naval component. Ukraine was a partnership for peace nation. We did a lot in the Black Sea, and a lot has changed. A lot has changed. We saw an illegal annexation of their territories. You know, they achieved their independence as a sovereign state in 1991 after the collapse of the Soviet Union. And then they were moving in the right direction for reform in their military. They gave up nuclear weapons. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue in 2014, Crimea was occupied by what the media called the Little Green Men. Rarely a shot was fired.
Right.
But it didn't stop there. And unfortunately, the war broke out in February of 22, and here we are today trying to seek a peaceful solution.
Looking just for a moment at the naval component of this ongoing war, now in its third year.
Right.
One of the signal achievements of the Ukrainians, maybe at sea, surprisingly, they were able to neutralize the Russian Navy through a lot of sea drones. Has this caused the Center for Maritime Strategy, which you're running now, to rethink some naval strategy issues?
You know, absolutely. And it's very important that you bring that question up. And as we'd say in the Navy, well done, or bravo Zulu. That's an area that we're paying particular attention to right now. And it has more than just a regional impact in the Black Sea. So American warships were in and out of the Black Sea all the time. I had a presence of either NATO or U.S. forces in the Black Sea of about 240 days a year. So we're always doing exercises, breeze, sea breeze with allies and partners. The Ukrainians had a flagship, Hemet Sagadashny. It was actually built the same shipyard as the Moskva, which is the one they sunk.
They sunk.
Yeah, but with the sinking of the Moskva, I was surprised. I know the Russians were surprised by that.
Yeah, I bet
and
they were.
you know, the Ukrainians repurposed a couple of Neptune cruise missiles.
Yeah.
And looking at the Moskva, I don't think it was prepared for that attack. I think they were perhaps a little arrogant and lost the ship and a lot of sailors on board. That was a flagship for the Black Sea, and it was one of President Putin's favorite ships to do ceremonies or ride on or do a naval review. And then it got progressively more aggressive. So the Ukrainians, they didn't have a very big navy. I mean, Hemet Sagadashny was one of their largest ships. They lost most of the ships during the annexation in 2014 because Sevastopol was their port, and that's where the predominance of their navy was. So they tried to rebuild. In fact, you know, one of my jobs was to help them do that when I was the Sixth Fleet Commander. They turned to unmanned or uncrewed platforms, drones on the sea and in the air, and they've been incredibly effective. You know, they've probably sunk about 1/3 of the Black Sea fleet, pushed the Russians out of Sevastopol to Novorossiysk, and that should cause all navies in the world to take pause, because when you look at what they've done on the cheap with commercial off-the-shelf technology, you wonder if that could happen to our Navy or any other great Navy.